Thanks for staying with us. The presumed death of the leader of the Wagner Group has elicited a commentary frenzy on the future of the group and its impact on the African continent. There is no question that Russia's influence in Africa is largely through the mercenary activities of the group. And now there's palpable fears that the leader's death will not only test the resilience of operations by thousands of mercenaries active in Africa's Sahel region, it could also have profound consequences for African countries that use their services. One slot joins the fray today to examine what implications there is for countries in Africa who rely on their services and the general relationships with Africa. My guest is Colonel Dr. Yomi Dare, retired, the MD CEO, International Masters Security Systems. It's a pleasure to have you on One Slot, sir. Thanks for giving us your time.
Thank you very much, Felicity, for having me on board.
Give us an overview of the activities and the presence of Wagner in Africa and why they hold high attention before we talk about the death of its leader.
The Wagner Group is being led by Prigozhin. Prigozhin is reputed to be an international businessman, but of course, when you lift the veil, you know that he is linked to the Kremlin, and he represents, is the face of Russia, is the face of Putin. And until recently, when there was an attempted coup that was in June, against the Russian government, or so to speak, against Putin, and then I think it fell out of favor, and it's something that from all intents and purposes, Putin didn't find that funny. And if you have followed the antecedents, of the Russian strongman, you will find out that you don't just step on his toes and get away freely. So that was why when, we all heard about the death of Prigozhin recently, everybody, all theories are pointing at Putin and Russia to be behind it.
Okay, but, I think you didn't quite get my question, because yes, the issues and circumstances around his death and his place with the Russian government is being debated. But I wanted to establish a basis for this conversation, and that is the role that the Wagner Group is playing in Africa and why there is so much attention on what is happening with the group.
Oh, yes, yes. The objective of the Wagner Group is to provide military support and security services. And most of the people that they have come to assist in doing that, or most of the countries, say, for instance, in Sudan, they played a great role in Sudan. They're in Mali. And of course, they are also right now, cutting Niger, so to speak, and some other African countries. You realize that since in the recent past, there has been about 9 coups in Africa, and 5 of African countries right now, at least 5 of the 15 West African countries or African countries are under military rule. So these are the people patronizing Wagner Group. And what Wagner Group stands for is for, in my own opinion, is more of economic adventurism, So Russia also needs African country to further his diplomatic policy or foothold in order to counter the West, and Russia needs that in Africa. And right now, Wagner is playing a great role. Now, I think your question, is what is the fate, of these African countries right now? Well, you'll agree with me that the Wagner Group has a structure. But of course, we're told that he died with his deputy. But aside that, the Russian government has a vested interest in the Wagner Group. So they'll do everything possible to ensure that the Wagner Group continues to exist. And we're told recently that Putin or Russia got most of the members of the Wagner Group, to sign some kind of allegiance, So that shows that Kremlin is really behind the Wagner Group, and they will not allow it to just go with the wind.
All right. Since you're taking this conversation there, so let's explore that angle. Russia's interest, investment in the Wagner Group. We know that Prigozhin has some kind of, rebel behavior that has put him at loggerheads oftentimes with the Russian president. There is controversy over whether he really died, or whether something else is going on. But why that is being treated, there is a vacuum of leadership. Do you see this as an opportunity for the Russian president to establish his foothold, starting with the declaration of allegiance that has been asked of the mercenaries of the Wagner Group?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that the president Putin will seize this opportunity, to get a better grip of the Wagner Group, better control of the Wagner Group. Even though you realize that the Wagner Group has been declared as a criminal organization. I think it was in January. Early January this year that the U.S. did that, but notwithstanding, Putin, Russia needs the Wagner Group.
So
don't forget that it is the same Wagner Group.
Doctor, how will he establish his authority or his influence in the activities of the Wagner Group? You said yourself that there were talks that his deputy died with the leader, Prigozhin. So what does that mean? Will he find some sort of puppet to take the place, one who will listen to him, unlike what the late leader did? In what way is he going to establish his authority aside from this declaration that we know he has asked from the mercenaries?
Well, I believe that he will definitely support the appointment of another leadership that will be loyal to him, even though all this will be done, behind the scenes, behind the curtain. But definitely, he's going to step in and take, full charge of this, because it's the Wagner Group that is helping them to prosecute the war in Ukraine and that of Syria, And apart from that, they also need the Wagner Group. They've already put their foot on the African continent, and they will really need them to continue, because I don't think they're going to back out as it is. So he's going to ensure, that they carry forward their diplomatic policies in Africa, and especially in Niger, because it's an open it's an open secret that the Nigerian government has even invited Russia to come and invest in Niger as against France, and they've kind of dissociated themselves from the diplomatic relationship with France.
Okay, let's look at, because the premise for this conversation is the demise of the leader, Prigozhin. how reliant, some people say he has a charismatic aura around him that inspired followership. How reliant would you say the Wagner Group was on Prigozhin's personal connections and networks in Africa? And what might the consequences be of his absence in their ability to maintain some of these relationships? Or to paraphrase that, how would his death impact on the...
Well, I don't think his death will mean the end of Wagner, because the Wagner Group has come to stay. So all that will happen, well, definitely some of the members might decide to abandon, and if we are not careful, they might even form some other splinter groups, But I can see that, knowing him and his antecedents, he must really have his plan, and this maybe the next couple of days will unfold. I think the Wagner Group will still remain, as effective, even after the death. Yes, there's no doubt that Prigozhin was a charismatic leader. Well, it takes charismatism to be a leader of such a group. In fighting force, they are military contractors.
Okay.
He's a businessman. He pays the forces. He pays them very well. And if you look at the activities of private military contractors, they are even more more taken care of than the regular forces. So that because they go an extra mile, in terms of fighting for the people, for their clients, or for their customers, so to speak.
Is there a possibility of the group facing maybe increased scrutiny or pushback from African countries or other organizations in the absence of Prigozhin's influence? Because he did wield a lot of that.
Well, it's a matter of leadership. But right now, the perception generally is that, Putin is behind the death of Prigozhin. And you might call it a conspiracy theory, because as we speak, you might also finger some other interests, because the West, that is the CIA, is not also happy about the activities of Prigozhin and the Kremlin in Africa. So they see themselves as competitors. So you might also look at that area, But again, it will only take some time. I'm sure that Russia will stabilize the Wagner, because the Wagner is the face of Russia.
A lot will depend on who becomes I'm really sorry, our audio connection seems to be a bit slow, but if you can hear me, I'm trying to say a lot seems to depend, or rather would depend, it seems, on the kind of leader that emerges from all of this. What kind of leader do you think will be able to fill in the shoes of Prigozhin and will not have any impact in the activities of the group?
Well, along the line, I want to also believe that if indeed the conspiracy theory is right, before this is done, definitely, as we speak, somebody must be under tutelage or being doomed to step into his shoes, okay, as a leader. And what is it all about? Funding. How does Prigozhin, who is a businessman, how does he get his funding? He gets his funding directly from the government. They are assisting either through direct cash payments or through concessions. And all these things, will be carried, will be continued. You know, it will be continued by whosoever step in. That's my take on this. I don't think the issue of leadership will stop the Wagner Group, you know, from flourishing as they have always done, you know. And of course, the Kremlin will continue to support them fully, and they will definitely exist. Though there will be some some kind of setback, but I'm sure they are going to get back on their feet and continue to try. But another thing again is that the for ECOWAS and other the West, they can seize this opportunity to encourage probably the West African countries or the African countries that are under military rule, because those are the places where the Wagner Group are thriving. So if they can step in through diplomatic means and all other possible efforts.
So you're saying that it might be an opportunity, because some people say the attraction of the Wagner Group was more, and Russia, generally speaking, is more to whittle down the powers and influence of the West. So are you saying that there is a possibility that this lull, so to speak, in the leadership of Wagner might give an opportunity for the Western world to reestablish areas where they now seem to have weak links?
Absolutely, absolutely. So while the West is doing that, you know, Putin himself, being a former KGB boss, too, he has a strategist too, and he has to ensure that you know, the gap is not left for too long, you know, before he gets somebody who will take charge, who will step into Prigozhin's shoes and then continue with the Russian diplomatic presence of the policy in Africa, especially where they are, because after all, the whole thing here is economic adventurism. It has to do with what, you know, parties can get for themselves in terms
this
of
is the second time you're talking about economic adventurism. I want you to speak a little bit about that. The group, a lot of persons have said, is more a business model, and you seem to agree, promoting Russian interests than anything else. I want you to speak a little broadly on the business side to the group and why this is a concern among experts in Africa, especially security analysts. We know that they have, they own businesses, they trade, they have entertainment, they go to schools, they have beauty pageants, they even make films. Talk to us about that.
Well, very interesting. Their latest bride, which is Niger, it's a common knowledge that you know, Niger is one of the largest producers of mineral resources, the uranium, and uranium is well sought after. I mean, uranium is more or less the lifeline of the survival of France. And as we speak, you know, I mean, the recent coup in Niger, you know, has exposed what France has been doing. I mean, kind of exploitative or exploitative presence or tendencies in Niger. You know, getting the uranium for next to nothing, and then paying the Niger government, you know, peanuts, and has not really helped them at all. And they've already invited Russia, you know, to come and start, you know, extracting the uranium, and they want to do business with Russia. And of course, it's just so it has really brought to fore a lot of exploitative activities of even the West too. You know, it's common knowledge that France, America, they just stand to exploit, the poor African nations of their resources, and this has to, I believe, this has to stop, but this has to be renegotiated, so that the poor nations themselves can benefit from their own resources, and I'm sure that's going to improve on the livelihoods of these nations. And that's what I believe that they should really step on. They have to renegotiate. It's not to be business as usual.
Okay. Looking forward Doctor, if you can hear me, in trying to wind down, looking forward, what do you foresee as the future of the Wagner Group in Africa, considering, what we know so far?
Well, I want to believe that as we all strive to encourage, to ensure democratic stability in Africa, the influence of the Wagner Group will definitely whittle down, because military regimes, military rule they're no longer fashionable, even with the initial standoff, face off that for example, the Niger junta had with ECOWAS. At the end of the day, he has accepted to dialogue. And with this dialogue, we can see the regime being short-lived. So once there's no market, once there's no opportunity, once there's no cause, because the Wagner Group, they all thrive where you have military regime, because that has been their antecedents. So once these things are taken care of, once there's democracy, you'll discover that their influence will be whittled down, and there won't be any need, to have them here. It is more of creating more problems for us, because there's nothing as good as having democracy and encouraging democracy to take its stand. Yes, corruption, it thrives all over, not only in Africa, even in the West. The West are more corrupt, than Africans. It's just that the way they go about their own is, it's in a more you probably would call it.
I'm sure a lot of persons will agree with you. I'm sure a lot of persons will agree with you in saying that they want their powers and the need for them diminished drastically for Africa to thrive democratically. We'll leave it there for now. Thank you very much, Doctor, for speaking with us on One Slot.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. And to you, our esteemed viewer, we thank you for your time. We hope that this conversation is of value. Check us out on our social media platforms. We're live on YouTube. You can watch past episodes of this program on our YouTube page. Again, thank you very much for your time. I'll see you again soon.